Hi everyone, my name is Kartik and my channel is about mental models. In this video I'll be talking about the Pareto Principle. The Pareto Principle is also known as the 80-20 rule. And what this means is it's where approximately 80% of something is dependent on 20% of something else. And in other words, if I draw a bucket here, and these are my inputs, and I draw one next to it, then essentially 20% of my inputs will give me approximately 80% of my output. And so if I have a graph, if I draw this in a graphical format, we've got effort here, and we've got results on the y-axis. Each of these represents a fifth. Then what this is trying to show graphically is something like that, where this point here represents sort of 20% approximately of the effort and 80% of the result. Now, if I sort of talk about a few examples of the Pareto Principle in normal speak, let's say we have a business. If you have 20 clients, approximately 80% of the revenue will be generated by 3 to 5 of them, so about 20%. If you have a big organization, a large organization, 80% of the sales would be generated from approximately 200 out of, say, 1,000 workforce. If we say it the other way around, 2 or 3 holdings in a portfolio of 10 are responsible for 80% of its growth, and 18% of the most frequent words account for over 80% of its occurrences. Now, there's a misconception in that this 80 and 20 should add up to 100. They don't. That's not the case. And the best way to illustrate that is my last example about the frequency of words and occurrences. And the point is coming back to sort of this graph here, that most things in life are not evenly distributed. So it might be 20% of input yields 80% of outcome. It might be 50, or it might be 99%. But just going back to the earlier example of the frequency of words. So if I draw another graph on this side, and this is my rank of words. So we've got the most common words here and the least common words here. So words like the, which are very common, are on this side of the axis, and words that are less common are on the end here. And this is the frequency of use as a log scale. And if we plot the graph, it would look something like that. And so all of these, all of the words are on the point here. They represent a word. So as I said, the word the is up here, and something less common is down here. So the most frequent words, 18%, is probably somewhere around here. This is 18%. So all of these words on this graph up to this vertical line. And the 80% of occurrences is the shaded area in between. So that represents 80% of occurrences. And that's why 80 plus 20 does not equal 100. Let's take another example. Let's say if we're making a cake or baking a cake. You have to prepare the cake tin, prepare the utensils, get the mixing bowl out, choose the ingredients, measure them, add them to the mixing bowl, mix them all together, and then put it in the oven, and then check on the oven to see if when it's ready and if it's cooked. So 80% of the effort, the intensity of mixing and measuring and preparing everything is in the first 20% of the time. And then as time goes on, after you put the cake in the oven, there isn't much effort, you're just watching over it. And so it sort of comes back to this graph here. So how is this model useful? Well, first of all, it's useful because it helps us to prioritize our efforts. So let's say I was developing a piece of software and approximately 20% of the bugs created 80% of the glitches in the software. I would be best placed to prioritize and focus on those 20% of bugs. Now, one thing to remember is that this is a mental model and it's not a law of nature. And so by that, what I mean is 80% of results, 80% of occurrences, 80% of outcomes is still only 80%. Taking another different example, let's say you want to build a rocket ship and you've built 80% of a rocket ship in the first 20% of the time that you've budgeted for it. You still need the rest of the rocket ship to be built. If you want a fully flying rocket ship, you need 100%. It doesn't work on 80%. Going back to my cake example, simply preparing the utensils, measuring the ingredients, mixing them together and putting them in the cake tin doesn't give you an edible cake. And so it helps us to prioritize, but it doesn't give us the finished article. It also helps us in planning. So let's say you have 3 hours. So these are my 3 clocks, 1, 2, 3. They represent an hour each. And I've got 12 articles that I need to read. And it takes me an hour to read 1 article. So what I could do is read Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. I could read 3 articles in the 3 hours. Or what else I could do, the other thing I could do, is I've got my 3 hours again. So that's one option. So option 1. Option 2 is I could split my first hour into 5 minutes each, and each of these segments represents 5 minutes. And there are 12 segments, 12 times 5 is 60, so I could read 5 minutes worth of all 12 articles, and then rather than picking 3 articles at random, I could pick, say, article number 7 and article number 8, because that's the most relevant, and read 2 articles in the remaining 2 hours. So in terms of the Pareto Principle, I haven't read 3 articles, which is the maximum I could have read. That represents the 100%. But I have read 2 articles fully, and I've also read a small number of the other 10 articles as well. So with a time-bound scenario, I've been able to get some information from all 12 articles. And so that's how it works in planning. Another example is, let's say it takes me 5 hours to draw a house. And I'm drawing a house in 5 stages. So stage 1 is the outline. And that takes me 1 hour to do. Now, stage 2 could be some basic colouring. So I've got my outline, but then I've got some very basic colouring. Let's say I'm just going to put in the outline in the interest of time, and I've coloured some of the house here. So that's my basic colouring. Then my third hour, stage 3, is to provide some basic detail. So on the windows I've got now crosses. That's my basic detail, and that takes me another hour. I've still got to colour, add some basic colouring from level 2. So this is my level 3 house. My level 4 house is a bit more advanced detail. So I've got that, and the advanced detail is, let's say I've got a doorknob and I've got some bricks on the chimney. That's my advanced detail. And I've got some, why not, some slates on the roof. And I still have it coloured in because that's from level 2. So the advanced detail has taken me another hour. And then finally, stage 5 is, say, finishing touches. So I've got my roof slates, got my windows, got my door with the doorknob, and I've got a bit of colouring in and outline on the house. And so the final stage is the finishing touches. Let's say I've got a little tree next to the house. And I've got some, let's say, got some clouds in the sky. And let's just put a fence around the house. A fence and a gate. Right. So this is my level 1. This is 2, 3, 4, and 5. And even with my basic drawing, level 5 looks a lot better than level 1. But if, say, I'm presenting this to a client and I have 5 hours to present, then what I could do is make 5 outlines. I could make 5 of these. So I could make a tall house. I could make a bungalow. And I could make my normal house. I could make 5 wire diagrams versus 1 finished advanced detailed diagram. And it may be better to present multiple ideas, this scenario here, versus 1 finished product. The other thing is that I can produce 1 of this and 1 of this as well. So level 2 and level 3, because that takes me 2 hours and that's taken me 3 hours, and that adds up to my 5 hours. But all of this will depend on the scenario, and if you know the scenario, then you can plan for it better, and that's how the Pareto Principle works in this. So going back to my point that I'm making, it's that the principle can help you plan whether a super detailed option is needed or multiple basic options. So super detailed versus basic, that's up to you. So just to wrap up this video, the Pareto Principle shows that most things don't have an even distribution. It's not a straight line. It's got this curve. And so in terms of effort and results, the Pareto Principle allows us to prioritize the things that are relevant, and so make a bigger difference with less time, less effort, less input. But always remember, if and when you need quality, you need 100% of the outcome, not just approximately 80%. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one with another mental model. Thank you. Bye-bye.